In this video, I want to talk about actually creating variables. Now, variables are words that can hold a value that processing refers to, and processing doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what the word means, it just knows what value it's set to hold. So, for example, variables have to be created up here above setup. This section up here, I'm going to comment this in, is called global. So this is the global section, everything that's listed before the setup code. And to create a variable, you very simply type in the word var space the variable name. Now, the reason you use variables to actually hold a value that maybe you want to change or something that's easier to refer to rather than a number. So if you look down here, I have my ellipse, and we have the x position, the y position, the width, and the height. And these are all just numbers. So that can be kind of difficult to refer to, especially if I want to make something happen if the ellipse is certain in a certain location, or if I want to make the ellipse move whenever I press an arrow key, something like that. It's very important to have a variable. So if we were to create a variable called ellipse x and set it, say, equal to 500, which notice that the ellipse currently has the x position of 500, and then if we made a variable called ellipse y and set that equal to 300, I could then go ahead and replace 500 with ellipse x and 300 with ellipse y, and the ellipse will be in exactly the same space as it were if I had left 500 and 300. So all I've done is I've replaced these numbers with these variables that are holding the value up here. Now you can also create the variables in global. So for example, I can create the variables up here and then later in the code, either in setup or in draw, set the variables equal to something. So for example, now I could say ellipse x equals 500 and ellipse y equals 300. And it's going to have again the same effect. Notice that I do not have to restate variable. I don't have to put var in front of these because we've already done that in global. We're just defining these and we're setting them equal to something. And you can set them equal to things later. So for example, if we set 500 up here, 300 up here, that could be the initial position, but then later in draw I could always change it. I could then say something like ellipse x equals ellipse x, say, plus 1. And now watch what happens. The ellipse is now going to move across the screen because every time draw refreshes, it adds 1 to its current position. So you would need a variable to do that, to make the object move. And if we said something like ellipse x equals ellipse x plus 1, if I copy and paste this, we can do ellipse y equals ellipse y plus 1. Now we're going to get this, oops, spelling's important, capital Y. So it's important that you always refer to whatever it is that you define these. These words can be literally anything you want as long as you spell them correctly. Now it's going to go ahead and move again based on the plus. So adding would move it to the right for x, and adding would move it down because remember origin is up here in the top left corner.